and I get to be James Brown. And for those of you who are in my section,
good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I look at you as people that have taken on a huge responsibility to sit here and help a fellow citizen exercise his right to have a trial by jury. And I want to take a minute to just introduce you to my client, James Brown, because I don't think you had a chance to meet James. This is James. You've heard from Judge Newton that James is charged with the crime of sexual battery. And I want to let you know, so that you don't have questions in your mind, the question that you're going to be talking about and thinking about as jurors, for those of you who are selected, is not going to be whether James had sex with Paula Crane, because they did have sex. There are going to be other questions that you are going to be addressing. And so part of what I would like to do at this time is to explore with you feelings and thoughts and kind of where your head is at on some of the same questions that the 12 jurors as a group are going to need to talk about. Mrs. Bishop, what comes into your mind when you hear the term no means no?
Sounds like someone had some question about that.
What do you mean someone had some question?
That for one person, no actually meant no. And for another person, maybe that no meant something else, like maybe.
Why do you think that could happen?
Well, communication is an inexact science at best.
When you say communication is an inexact science, what are you thinking about that makes it inexact?
Well, so often, when I say something, from time to time it's misinterpreted, and someone will hear something completely different from what I said, or what I thought I said.
Now, have you had an experience where what you said and what you thought you said was different?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I can't think of one offhand.
But that's something that's happened to you personally.
Yes.
What were you feeling when that kind of miscommunication happened?
Surprise, perhaps anger or guilt, feeling guilty that the person thought that I was saying one thing, saying something that I didn't mean to say, so that maybe I hurt someone's feelings.
Do you think that when you said something that was misinterpreted, and you've described all these feelings for us that created for you, do you think that created some feelings in them too?
Yes, I imagine they did.
What kinds of feelings do you think somebody would feel if they were the receiver of the miscommunication?
They might feel sad, they might feel angry, they might feel accused.
Why do you think they would feel those things?
Because they're telling themselves something about what is going on around them that's causing them to feel a particular way. It's not just what's outside themselves that's going on, but also something that's going on the inside of them that's causing them to feel in a particular way.
What it sounds to me like you're saying is that what might be happening in the external, outside world could be different than what they're feeling inside. I don't want to misunderstand what you were saying.
I would say that feeling is the end result of a couple of inputs, like an equation, and one of the parts of the equation is what's the actual situation that you're responding to, that I'm responding to with a feeling, and another part of the equation is what is going on inside of me, what I tell myself about what's going on outside.
Can those be different?
I wouldn't say that they're different. I would say that my interpretation of a situation is unique to someone else's interpretation of a situation because of what's going on inside of them.
What would you feel is something that would make it easier to clear up a miscommunication that you might have with someone?
To ask them about it, to ask them or to feed back to them what you think that they said. In fact, I hear you doing it to me now, is you'll take something I've said and paraphrase it and say it back to me and check out if that's what I meant in the first place.
When I've done that, how did that leave you feeling?
Maybe a little frustrated because you didn't say it the way that I meant it.
And when you felt frustrated, what did you want to do?
I wanted to explain myself further. I wanted to rectify the situation by explaining myself further.
What I want to do is come back to that in a few minutes in terms of giving that opportunity to explain something further. Let me ask a couple of the other people here. Ms. Portillo, what do you think about, or what comes into your mind when you hear the phrase, no means no?
When it comes to my mind, it seems like no means no, regardless of how I said it, what was happening when I said it. When I said no, I meant no.
How many ways can you think that we as people could say no?
A lot of different ways.
Tell me what some of them are that come to your mind.
Some may be firm, where some may be no, but my tone of voice is in a joking manner. Or I could be just in a mood where I'm just saying no and be real leisure about it.
When you say your tone of voice might be a joking matter, do you think that would affect how the person that heard you say no would respond to it?
Yes.
How would that affect them?
They would think you were laughing or just maybe playing or pulling their leg and just whatever I'm saying no to, probably attempt to proceed on. Whereas, because I took it so lightly, I didn't make myself firm or clear.
If you don't make yourself clear, what do you think the result can be?
Whatever question or whatever I'm being solicited and I say no, that could cause the other person to proceed to go on with whatever it is that we're discussing, as opposed to just taking the no and stopping with it.
Mr. Lawson, let me ask you, same question I've asked both Ms. Bishop and Ms. Portillo. What comes to your mind when you hear the term no means no? I'm sorry, I said Mr. Lawson, it's Mr. Ruff, right?
Oh, you were
I'm
talking
sorry.
to me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking
were looking
at you
past
and
me, so I
no,
figured
I'm
someone
sorry.
behind
I was
me.
kind of looking at you, and I'm looking down to try and keep names straight, but yeah, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Ruff, and I apologize.
Okay, that's okay. Pretty clear cut. No means no.
Why is that so clear cut for you?
It's not up for debate. I mean, someone says no, then it's not a debatable issue. No is no.
Now, you know, did you hear Ms. Pertello was talking about how a tone of voice in how the word no is said could change what the meaning of that no was. What do you think about that?
I think that's true, but usually someone adds something to that. They may hedge and say, no. Or they just say no. So there's different no's.
And when you said that, I noticed you went, and kind of moved your head back and forth. Is there something besides voice that you would look to for a cue about whether no meant no?
Yeah, the original language, body language, is, I mean, physical. You have a physical no and then you have no.
Tell me what you think a physical no looks like.
No.
Okay. The head shakes.
Right. This is something physical. It's movement. I just stuck out my hand.
Now, when you did that, did you think about doing it? Or did that come to you just as part of how you respond in the world?
Reflective, yeah.
When you think about reflexes, do you think that reflexes are something that people do unconsciously?
I agree with that unconsciously, yes.
Why else might people be exhibiting behavior in a physical way?
Why? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, one way, you know, you've said reflex, that one way people express themselves is kind of a reflex,
Right.
physical reflex. Is it possible to communicate physically without it just being a reflex?
Oh, definitely. You can have ulterior, another motive for doing it. For doing something physical, you have a motive for doing it.
Can you give me some examples you can think of where somebody has communicated to you in a physical way, and it wasn't just their reflex, but that, you know, they thought it through and they made a physical communication with you?
A child reaching for a cookie. The mother says no, but then she has to physically reach out and grab his hand from the cookie jar. She's been physical with him.
And what do you think the message is the child got at that point?
No. She was reaffirming her no by acting upon. She verbally said no, then she physically acted upon it.
Now, if the child were just told no, what could happen?
He could later just decide to go get the cookie anyway.
And if she didn't say anything to him and just moved his hand away, what do you think the results could be?
The child now thinks there's more than one level of no, more than one definition of no.
So, if I understand what you're saying, in that case, both the physical action and the verbal no together is what would be important for that child.
Definitely.
Why do you think that would be true for a child?
His thought process isn't as rational as a mature older person. So sometimes you have to reaffirm a no with the child as opposed to an intelligent, consenting adult.
Now, when you say an intelligent, consenting adult, you're talking about somebody who has, what, a normal adult thought process?
Yeah, normal.
What do you think might be the problems that adults can have that would make it hard for them to respond to normal adult communication? What kinds of things could interfere with that?
Mental illness, mental handicaps. Can't think of anything else.
Have you ever known anybody who had trouble as an adult communicating?
No, not without some sort of mental handicap now.
Have you known people with some type of mental handicap that have had trouble communicating?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that type of situation in terms of what type of handicap they had first? Let me ask you that.
They have physical handicap, some verbal.
Can you describe for us what the nature of it was?
I don't remember the exact illness that they had, but it was more, they weren't wheelchair bound, but they had some birth defect that they had when they were born that didn't allow them to communicate clearly.
Was this person trying to,
child.
I'm sorry, was this person trying to communicate with you?
Not specifically, no.
You heard them in an interaction sometime?
Yes.
What did you see the results of their attempts to communicate to be? What kind of feelings did they seem to have about communicating?
What kind of feelings do they have about communicating? Sometimes it will be frustrating to them. You can see frustration in people's eyes. They're trying to get their point across, and they have to physically sometimes point at something where they've been trying to verbally get it across. So you can see the frustration occasionally.
Okay. Mr. Woodson, what do you think about when you hear the term no means no?
Well, there are some people who say no that don't mean it. And at times, when people are being frivolous, they may say no and not actually mean it. And when you pursue it further, the no turns out to be yes.
What cues would you look for to try and decide whether this was a no that should be pursued further or a no that meant no?
It would be in the attitude, the way the person presented the no, whether they were firm and authoritative in saying no, or whether they were giddy and playful.
Some of the same things I think Ms. Portillo was talking about, tone of voice maybe.
Yes.
Mr. Ruff mentioned that he noticed frustration in the eyes of someone that was having trouble communicating. Would you look at a person's eyes to get some sense of what they meant behind
Yes.
what they might say?
Yes, I look at people's eyes when I'm communicating.
What does that tell you?
I think I can judge better by looking a person straight forward. I think I can judge better whether they're pulling my leg or whether they're telling me the truth.
And if you're not asking them to give you an answer to a question that's either truthful or untruthful, but just talking with them, what does looking in their eyes tell you when you're just talking to somebody?
I think it's more assurance than anything else. I feel assured that what they're telling me is what they mean to tell me.
Are there cues that you would look at from somebody that would say to you that their words said one thing, but their meaning was something else?
Head bobbing, ducking, blinking, eye blinking, grinning when grinning is not necessary, things like that.
Now, Ms. Bishop talked about what can happen with miscommunication, where the frustration of saying something but realizing you meant something else. And you recall her talking about that. Do you think there's physical cues that people give to help you know whether what they're saying is what they're meaning?
Yes.
What might those be, besides what you've already told us about? Are there other things you might look for?
Yes. Sometimes a touch, someone putting their hand on your shoulder, or a kindness in their voice, other kinds of body communications that are pleasant.
What communication signals would say to you, this isn't a pleasant encounter?
Foot stomping, and loud voice, and other authoritarian ways of saying whatever they're saying.
Now, Ms. Webb, we've been talking here about the term no means no and how that can be communicated. Several folks have given us some ideas about communicating it with words, communicating it with voice tone, communicating it with physical gestures. I want to ask you, what do you think we can do to communicate with someone to let them know how we feel? What in your world makes you think about how to communicate with somebody about how you feel?
Just straight out tell them what you want them to know. Don't just say no and then jokingly play with it. Just be like, no, and that's the end of it. Just, go about your business.
Are there things you like to rely on that are non-verbal communication?
Body movement, hand gestures, or you can, eye contact too. Anytime you tell someone no, just let them know that you mean business. Say no, look them in the eye, or no, whatever. Just let them know.
What could cause somebody to not be able to communicate how they felt?
Scared or unsure. That's all I can really think of right now.
How would being unsure about something make it hard to communicate how you felt?
When you have one part of you that wants to, and then one part that's saying no. When you weigh the pros and cons, it may be good to do it like this, or it may be bad to do it like that. If you have a good side and a bad side, that can make it hard.
If I understand what you're saying that if you can't make up your own mind, if you're unsure about how you feel, then what you're going to communicate may come out that way too?
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Mr. Zelius?
Yes.
In talking with Ms. Webb, she's brought up this interesting point about when we're unsure about our own feelings, our ability to communicate them may not be really as sure as we'd like them to be either. What would you look at to tell you that someone is communicating to you in a way that they are sure about it?
That they are sure of what they're sending, the message sending me. What I like to do is paraphrase it. If I look at them and they're talking to me and maybe looking up, or their eye contact, or has hesitance in their voice, I may turn around and paraphrase what they said to try to ensure I'm getting the correct message. A lot of it is feelings, the vibrations I'm getting from one person to the next. If a person looks at me and says, my name is John Zelius, I do this and this, says it with conviction and is firm about it, then I have a tendency to pay close attention to what the person is trying to say.
If you aren't paying close attention to what someone is telling you, what do you think the result can be?
Most of the time, the person, I don't know, to me, if a person is not paying close attention to myself, chances are the conversation is going to be very limited.
Have you ever been in a situation where you weren't paying close attention to what someone was saying to you and it affected your ability to listen to what they had to say?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And not necessarily for you, but let me just ask you in general, what can cause somebody to not be paying attention to what someone else is trying to communicate?
Distractions. They may have something on their mind that they're not focusing their attention to that individual, or they listen only partly to what's being said, and their mind may start wandering either to answer the person or to add to what they think the person is saying. In actuality, the person may be saying something totally different.
So if I understand what you're talking about is kind of that sense of I'm already focused on something else, somebody's communicating to me, and I'm adding my focus to their communication, and I may miss what they're communicating. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Okay, and maybe the term we would even use is putting our own words in their mouth if it's going to be spoken communication.
Right.
Okay. Mrs. Lawson, have you ever had that situation occur to you, either where you were the communicator and somebody was not hearing what you had to say or the communication you were sending, or you were the receiver and you weren't paying attention? Has that happened? When that's happened to you as a sender of a message and it wasn't being received the way you intended, how did you feel?
Well, I feel a little bit like the lady mentioned. I feel that I could have made it clearer, or that I came from my own perspective and didn't think about the person I was speaking to and what their perspective was, that they would misjudge it.
Now, you mentioned something here about their perspective. When we think about people having different perspectives, what kinds of, let's say, factors in your life affect your perspective of things, how you see things?
Well, I'm sure, having lived as many years, I've seen a lot of different sides to things, and I think about them in a lot of different ways because I have more things have happened. I've seen them all different ways, so I know there's not just one limited way to think about it.
So would it be fair to say age is a factor in how somebody perceives something?
In my case.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that probably for a young person, they don't have as many experiences, and so they may not have as broad a base to base their perceptions on?
Right, I think so.
Mr. Goolsby, can you think of some other things that would affect a person's perspective on the communication they receive?
Not hearing the message properly, perhaps hearing it and then misinterpreting it. I think life experiences plays a key role as well.
How do you think, and I'm not saying necessarily that you know Mrs. Lawson, but I'm just asking you to kind of guess, how do you think your life experiences would be different from Mrs. Lawson's, just in terms of looking at each other and saying what would be some differences we'd have?
Well, probably she's been around a lot longer than I have.
Okay.
So life experiences plays a key role.
Okay. Is there going to be a different experience for a man versus a woman?
I think it's going to be a different experience for everybody, gender notwithstanding.
What would be some other factors? Miss Edwards, what factors besides age, gender, what other factors in a person's background can make a difference in what their perception of communication is?
Well, whether or not you like that person, or whether or not you respect that person, or if you think that person is smart or not, or I don't know.
Maybe how well you know the person who's communicating with you. Would that
Right.
be fair to say then?
Yes.
Okay. What other factors would come to your mind when somebody's communicating with you? What about your background do you know affects how you perceive that communication?
Well, I believe it does. I believe, everybody has their own perspective, their own experiences, so I think each individual could perceive a situation or a conversation their own way.
What would you want to know about a person in order to have a better understanding of how they were communicating with you?
Well, I communicate with people verbally a lot of times, so I would want to know if they could speak well, if I would be able to understand them.
Would it make a difference to you where they came from?
Yes, I think that would make a difference.
Why might that make a difference?
Well, somebody from a different cultural background would definitely see a situation differently from the way I would.
When you say a different cultural background, what kinds of cultural backgrounds come to your mind that would be different than yours?
European, Middle Eastern, Asian, places around the world.
All those things you believe then would be factors in terms of what we're talking about here, this ability to communicate with
Right.
people. Okay. Miss Mandeville, we've gone kind of full circle here in talking about communication, and I want to kind of come back to you and ask you, when you think again of that term, no means no, and you've heard what a lot of other folks have expressed about this, when you hear the term, what comes to your mind?
Well, I can understand that there are some people that know that no means no, but there are some people that have some kind of mental impairment where their judgment is not as clear as a normal thinking pattern.
When you talk about a mental impairment, what are you thinking about? What comes to your mind as far as what that means?
I think about learning disabilities, IQ, mental retardation, mild to severe. That's a lot of big issue these days, especially in the education line.
What is your belief about whether that should be an issue?
I know today a lot of these people that are classified with mild mental retardation, that low IQ, they're committing crimes, and it's coming out in the courtroom.
What is your feeling about whether the fact that they suffer from some type of, I think your term was a lower IQ or a lesser type of mental retardation, what's your feeling about whether that is a factor that we should consider?
Well, it is a factor if this person cannot comprehend when somebody tells him no. His meaning of no will be totally different from a normal person.
And when you're saying this, what I'm trying to understand is one of the questions that oftentimes comes up is this an excuse? What's your feeling about that? Is it an excuse? What do you think?
Well, it does explain why this person couldn't comprehend when someone tells them no. It would explain a lot.
Mr. Woodson, you've had experiences in the school system since you've been retired. When you have a child in a classroom who has a communication difficulty, what have you found to be the most effective ways to deal with that?
The children that I worked with were either had an injury at birth, their parents were on drugs, or there was damage, there was freedom, wait a minute, injury at birth. I can't think of it. But anyway, in dealing with these students, these are they can stay in school until 22, and then they have to get out. They're in a special class. We concentrate on teaching them exit in case of fire, restrooms, danger. Some of these students, 5-10 minutes, they can remember it, and then it's forgotten. And every day we go over this, because these are the main things to protect them, and also that they don't get killed for going into a girl's room or a boy's room, vice versa. And this is a tough job, but these kids try. And the thing, if I had my way, I would have every sane student with all his faculties have to stay in a class at least one day to see how these kids struggle and try to do the right thing, but they're limited.
From what I hear you saying, that it is a problem that we deal with, and that it is a definite communication issue when somebody struggles with maybe a low IQ, and that we do need to make some allowances for them. Is that fair to say?
That's a fair statement.
Thank you. I'll pass this jury for cause.